Okay, I am making my first meal plan of the new year. I'm getting back into the swing of this practice, which is honestly essential to me to stay anywhere close to on budget for our family with food. My goal, well, my budget is £30 per week per person on food, which does include a few other things. And we try to make that organic food as much as we can. We try to shop mindfully in terms of where our food is coming from, the supply chain, how it's affecting people. And there is no way that I could hit those values and also stay on budget without planning it out. The planning helps me in terms of piecing together the cheap foods into meals, but also making sure everything gets eaten. That's a huge reason I would go off budget, is stuff would maybe go bad if I didn't plan it all out and have a space for everything. So this is where we start. So this year, I am not planning lunches. So I'm actually just going to put a line right through that, aside from at the weekend. But when the kids are at school, I make them the same thing every day, pretty much. And then my 2-year-old and I will eat leftovers from the night before or have eggs. Or maybe I'll make a big bowl of lentils and we can kind of piece together meals. And then in the summer, we'll have salad leaves and things like that in abundance. But I'm just not going to plan lunches this year. So we'll have breakfasts and dinners. And when I start my planning, I start by running to the kitchen and writing down a list of anything that needs to be eaten. So we have some staples like flour that we have, but the things that need to be eaten, I just ran in there and I have some cooked beef. I've got some cabbage. I've got some huge golden beets from our veg box. And I've got a broccoli. I think that's all. So I'll make that little note at the bottom of my meal plan. And then I go through and look at what any other days I don't need a meal. So I'm going to scratch off Sunday lunch because we're out, and Thursday because we're out as well in the evening. Also, that would include writing in when we have extra people, but we don't have any of that this week. So it's just us. Then I'm going to go back to these ingredients that need to be used up to make sure nothing goes to waste and plug them in early in the week so they don't go bad. So I'm going to do a simple quinoa. We'll roast the beets. We'll throw in the beef and then do some probably kind of soy honey dressing on it. I might throw the cabbage in there as well. So that's got rid of that. Then I'm going to do a broccoli mac and cheese on the next day. Mac and cheese is something that we do once a week with any leftover meat we might have, or a vegetable or a side as well as it. But that's a once a week meal. It knocks off one of my 7 dinners every week. I know it's on budget and I love it for that. The other meals like that in our week are Saturday morning is always waffles. It's a happy tradition. I can use up extra sourdough starter, or I can use oats or flour. I can tweak it with what we have, but that's always waffles. And then Saturday night is always pizza. And then again, I might cook different vegetables into the sauce, put different vegetables on top. You might put something on the side, but I know that the bones of the meal is pizza, which helps me a ton and also is a way to work seasonally without having to find completely new recipes all the time. And simple is how I make this work. So then I'm going to look at my open spaces and just begin to fill them in with meals that I know work with our budget. So at this point, my brain often goes completely blank and I go, what do we eat? Or what could I put beef and cabbage in? So I just keep a list of meals that our family likes, and then I can go, that one, plug it in, that one, plug it in. And it works really well to keep it simple for me. So highly recommend a master meal list. We're going to do soup. It's freezing cold here. I'm going to do a chicken and bean soup, but I'm going to use the chicken carcasses that I can get from our veg box. And I can just boil them down, make my own broth. It's a very, very cost-effective way to have a hearty and really nutrient-dense soup, but for very little money. I will soak my own beans to keep that soup really cheap, but high in protein, but really nice and on budget. And then I do need a meal for Saturday, so we'll do for Saturday lunch, rather. So I'll do a soup repeat. Then I've actually only got 2 more dinners left. I'm going to make one a leftovers dinner. Now, I usually will always keep a bag of dry pasta in the cupboard in case there's literally no leftovers, but there's always something. And then on Monday night, another meal we do usually once a week is some kind of breakfast for dinner. It usually has eggs. We'll do a poached or a fried egg, toast, and then maybe some roast vegetables, or it might be some pancakes on the side, really whatever we have for the breakfast for dinner meal. In there, it could have meat, it could not, kind of work with what we have and the style of food that I have time for, but breakfast for dinner in there. And that is my dinners for the week, and the leftovers will be lunch. Then I'm going to just plug in breakfast. I could not plan breakfast, but I just like to make sure we're rotating things and that it makes me know that I have what I need in the house. So we're going to do pancakes a couple of times. I've got my sourdough starter going again, and from bringing it back to life, I have a good amount of discard. So we'll do some discard pancakes. I'm going to do some oatmeal because I love that on cold mornings. But I like throwing in an egg. It makes it obviously extra protein, but also kind of custardy and creamy with a bit of vanilla. Obviously, that makes it slightly less budget friendly, but it's still a great budget meal. We'll probably do a toast morning. Everyone can just choose their own toppings, and then I'll maybe do a yogurt and granola. If I can find the time to make some granola, I'll do that there, and we'll do that with yogurt. So breakfast will change depending on the morning or how much time we have, or if we get a football match, but I like to kind of plan it out just to make sure we're rotating through things and that I at least have a plan. I can always deviate from the plan if I know that works, but I have something to fall back on. And we're done. Now I just look over it and go, okay, did I do okay on budget? But I know all of these meals work for our budget. If there is a more expensive one that I have put on, then I'll usually just make sure that the rest of the meals are lower budget meals so that we're going to end up pretty much on budget. And then I just look through and go, have I screwed myself with how I've done this? Have I put a complicated meal right after crazy football practices or ballet or something like that? So I look through and go, does this actually work with my life? Because if it doesn't, it's not going to happen. And then the food gets wasted, or we buy something at the last minute, and that's when the cost starts to creep up. So it also has to work for my plan for the week. And then I will take this to the shops, to my computer to shop my veg box, and then it will go in the kitchen so that we actually stick to it and so that I can adjust it. If something's going bad, I can go, all right, we can trade those two around. It's kind of an evolving thing as we go through the week, but at least starting with this is the only way I can think to stay on budget. So there we have it for the week. First one of the year. And if you don't do it, such a good practice to start. Even just doing it each week, the practice of doing it is its own teacher, I think, as you do it and then see how you've done on budget and then come back and do it the next week, even without any extra input or trying to learn anything. Just the practice of doing it, I think, is such a powerful one. So highly recommend, and it absolutely is the only way I can stay on budget.